Hello, my name is Peter Cinnamon, and you're very welcome to a podcast which is all about the Irish League, a league which just took its seat at the European club top table after Larne's historic progression to the league stage of the UEFA Conference League. Haven't heard about it? Where have you been? As we're going to spend some time reflecting on this once unfathomable achievement, review the games that got them there, and look ahead to the rather tasty ties which now lie in their wait. We're also going to cover the Port's late comeback draw, which left a bitter taste in the mouth of Blues fans. We're going to look at that Jordan Jenkins goal of the season contender, as well as talk about the hat-trick from a certain Ben Kennedy, who has hit the ground running wearing sky blue. A lot to take in, I must say, so let's sit back and enjoy your latest weekly edition of Kicking Match. Fresh guest for you to enjoy on the podcast this time round. What a treat. If you also want to be a first-time listener, maybe you might be a recent convert to the podcast. If you don't mind, I'd like to point you in the direction, I think it's an upward direction as well, towards the subscribe/follow button on whatever platform of podcast choice you may have chosen. It's free. Great. It's easy. Even better. And the reason why you want to do this is because it takes the guesswork out of whenever I upload one of these episodes. It gives you a little notification every time one of these pods is fresh out of the oven. What more could you want? There's hundreds of people already in this rather cool club, so why not get involved and join in with the gang? Sounds good to me. What also sounds good to me is the guest that I've chosen, an Inver Red flavoured guest, which I'm sure you probably could have predicted beforehand, and someone who's been there during the plush and the fallow times at Inver Park. You might know him through his community and outreach work at Larne. You might know him as the voice of the club's match commentary offerings, especially during this whole European campaign. It is great to welcome in for the very first time. His name is Joel Neill. Hello, Joel.
Hello, Peter Cinnamon. It's great to finally get together. We've been planning this for a long time.
Isn't it? You see, you plant seeds, you try, and some people need a little bit of, I don't know, their club making history to say, you know what, now's the time for me to come on and gloat. I've tried to entice you in. He said, I don't know now. But it's great to have you on board. It is a great week to be on board, of course, because your connections with Larne, that run deep, the past few weeks and months that have been, and, you know, people talk about having a song of the summer. You, Joel, are the voice of the summer for me, because the amount of times I was sat there in my living room, glued to a laptop, with you providing the commentary for all these European games. I'm sure you are delighted that you had a busy summer doing all the comms for these European games and the adventure that the Inver Reds have had. But I'm sure part of you was slightly surprised that you had so much work to do.
Well, firstly, sorry about that. I appreciate your patience putting up with me in your living room for all those evenings. Now, listen, it's a fantastic privilege to kind of be invited to do that kind of stuff when the club does a stream or puts a game out. I get the distinct privilege of doing it alongside James Cooper, formerly of Sky Sports News, rather. And very, very esteemed sports journalist, covered Manchester United for a very long time, really knows his onions. And he himself has links to Larne going way back to his university days, which is where the connection comes from. So to be able to take those games in, to be honest, probably helps me a bit because I'm not in the stands chewing my fingernails off. It's quite nice to have something to be kind of all consumed by, for you to focus on through some of the most nerve-wracking spells of 90 minutes that I can remember in my lifetime, to be honest.
Many strings to your bow if you're not doing the commentary stuff. As you said, you're doing the community relations thing. Like, to get into the week that we are finally here, because it was a sliding doors moment for Larne, the Irish League, and even myself, of what I was going to cover on this podcast. I didn't know if it was going to be a celebration or a commiseration, but as Kenny Bruce put it, the glass ceiling has been broke. Lincoln Red Imps were slain in dramatic fashion, nail-biting fashion for sure, finally at Inver Park. And we are now in a world, finally, where an Irish League team are playing league phase proper in the new modern sense of European group stage, league stage football for the very first time. It had to come. We didn't know when it was going to be. But let's go back to Thursday night, when that final whistle blew. That the sense of relief, euphoria must have been off the Richter scale.
Yeah, it was sort of beyond. First of all, to take that back one step, I'm certainly not here to gloat. Like I think if you ask anybody around Larne Football Club, it's good for the league and good for the game. And I know that sounds trite, and it sounds like the kind of thing that I should say. But the league needed it, as you said yourself, Peter. And certainly, whenever Linfield were on the cusp of it, I think the Irish League needs to be in the group stages of a European competition, or the league phase as it is now. I certainly always wanted it to be us first. I think that we have been building probably faster than we expected over the last number of years since 2017 towards it. But to finally get over the line, to grow up a Larne fan and to see them lift the Gibson Cup was an otherworldly experience. It was out of body, and even the second time around, I consider myself lucky to be alive in an era where Larne have lifted 2 Gibson Cups, and you can't expect anything. I certainly hope that we continue to be successful for a long time, but those were otherworldly experiences. The final whistle on Thursday night was beyond that, and I'm not sure that I can give you the words or give you the kind of description. The scenes of jubilation, I know you yourself took the game in from the church end. It was great to see your face in the crowd, and some really good content from the night as well. You're always very welcome down at Inver, but I think the reaction from the community and the turnout from the community, and not even just in Inver Park, but around the main street, around the shops in the town, the buzz that carried on into Friday and into the weekend, I think that's probably the closest thing you can get to sort of putting it into words or summarising it. You can tell that this meant so much to the community of Larne and certainly our football club. I'm definitely not doing it justice, but I preface that by saying there's a journey you go on whenever you've kind of gone through what we've gone through since 2017. You can't have the mentality that you're happy to be here, that you can't believe your luck, because that's not how you continue to be successful. But there are still these moments where you sit back and go, I can't believe this is happening. And I think back to a young Joel watching, Larne crash out of the CIS Cup final in 04, losing the Irish Cup final in 2005. And I look back on those thinking, those are probably the biggest days of my time as a Larne fan. If I could go back to that kid and be like, just you wait, boy. just you wait. It's just, I could ramble. I'm not going to. I'm going to shut up.
Those moments are truly what the magic of football is all about, that we all believe, and this is why we are such key fans of whatever team we follow, is because ideally at some point what is happening currently to Larne is going to happen to your club. Now, could you have told little old Joel in 2004 that there's going to be so like digital property is going to really kick off, right? And there's going to be this website, right? And there's going to be this guy, and anyway, the pitch was too small, and that's why they had to play at Cliftonville's ground. So I totally get.
You had to get that in.
So you just don't know how it's all going to work out. It's a few bumps along the way, but to really hone in on this European journey so far, because you're absolutely key to this, because you have watched it like I have for pretty much every second of it. And that game against RFS kicked off for me this Irish League season. It was definitely the kind of opening prologue of it, but it definitely was the start of it for me. And RFS, with this kind of ghost of European campaigns past for Irish League fans, you know what? Linfield should have beat them. They're from Latvia, kind of smallish country. They hopefully are rubbish now. Let's beat them, and we can go on this little slip and slide, which Linfield did. And the first part of that was supposed to be taking care of business against RFS. You had the first game away in Latvia. Brilliant. Hold them to a draw, maybe sneak a goal, finish the job at Inver Park. Didn't happen that way, and it became very clear within the first 20, 30 minutes that this was a side who were either far superior or perhaps Larne are very far behind in their preparations for a European campaign.
I think, to take the diplomatic answer, it was a bit of both. We obviously we had prepared, I think, as best we could, but a team who has quite a lot of kind of key changes to the squad. We tried our best to go into Europe this year with as much kind of squad cohesion and as much of the squad from last year as possible, so that we could hit the ground running and address those kind of issues that we are not mid-season, and we are facing a team who are mid-season. So it was certainly that, the jump from playing friendlies in Northern Ireland and one day out in Kern Ryan as well, to play in RFS. I mean, their pedigree speaks for themselves. They had their goalkeeper had played in the African Cup of Nations. They top to bottom, the squad was full of internationals. Their playing budget would have dwarfed kind of what we're fortunate to have these days. They were just so quality, and I feel maybe somewhat venerated by the fact that they qualified for the league phase of the Europa League themselves. And we made good friends with RFS. The club itself, lovely people, really, really so welcome. And it's one of the best parts of Europe, being able to kind of meet other clubs and see how they do it in other places. But genuine friends from that encounter that we were all very happy to message and congratulate. But it maybe speaks to the pedigree of RFS that they ended up in the league phase of the Europa League. It's the condensed time that you have to prepare, but it's also coming up against a squad who are mid-season, two-time Latvian Super League winners, two-time Latvian Cup winners, very, very young team. You know, they are sort of a rebirth of a Riga team that had existed before. And again, maybe a similar story, a lot of money pumped into it. The stadium out in Riga, only a few years old, very fresh, very new, and certainly a lot of resource. But the quality in that squad, top to bottom, I mean, you saw the games yourself, Peter, it showed. I think that had we been maybe further in the season, we could have given them more of a game, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that we would have still had a chance against them. I think now that we're looking at how it's all shaken out and where they've ended up in Europe this year, it's probably told the story.
Their speed, their quality of play, their precision, their strength, their fitness, they had so many traits that were exceptional in regards to the level of football that Larne would be used to week in and week out. And it showed perhaps the naivety of Irish League fans, because across the Irish League draws, we were feeling quite bullish for most teams, and that really didn't go well. And another thing crept up. Oh my goodness, actually 2 years ago, this was a team that Linfield should have beaten. They haven't beat them, and this is where they are now. And realistically, perhaps this is the type of team we're going to be facing year in and year out. Have the Irish League sides already missed the boat, in the sense that they got the investment, they progressed, and it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So down in the dumps, they tried hard. That first half at Inver, there was a little spark of, maybe, and then a bit of quality and skill runs into the box, and the game eventually sails out of sight. Then you get
to the sword.
Yeah, and then you get a tiny bit of luck in that you skip around just by a bye, and that kind of was helpful, but ultimately you were scooting by anyway. And then if we're talking about ghosts of summers past, here comes Balkany, a team who actually probably a year ago you would have said, Kosovo, we should be beating them. And of course they were very impressive last year, kind of gave us a thumping, and it just went from sadness to meek. Well, what can you do? There's a feeling of hopelessness, and that was not a narrative that stuck within the team. They were ready to take them on. They did not look as strong as they were the season before. Clearly, Larne had improved, and we've talked about a lot in this podcast. But across the two legs, went out, a little dramatic penalty shootout along the way, but really, and I think it's particularly after that first goal away against Balkany, where you thought, you know what, we've been up against it, but we've got a goal, and now we could do it in Inver Park. There's a chance this summer could end quite well. When did you start to think, wow, this isn't just going to be on the wrong end of a whipping every game?
A lot of stars have to align, I think, for a good European campaign to become a European campaign where you end up in the group stage of even, of the Conference League or wherever. Certainly that sort of lucky loser second round bye at the draw stage, we celebrated that as if it was a massive draw itself. That is crucial, and I think the combination of a bye like that and the champions path of the league winners are sort of the secret recipe that you need, or even just the foundation that you need to put together a European run. And I think that we got extremely lucky with that kind of second round bye. It certainly doesn't make the journey we've been on any easier. The games I've watched this summer have been some of the most knockdown, drag out, physical, emotional sort of Larne games that I've ever seen. I guess to answer your question, Matty Lusty putting that goal away in Pristina, was just something that we probably couldn't have envisaged after having encountered them last year. They were better than Helsinki. We played Helsinki in the first round of the Champions League, and the naivety, as you say, of Europe. You draw Balkany, you don't know a lot about Kosovo and their domestic league, and it's not really until that kind of first whistle goes that you get a sense of who this team are, and they really, really put us to the sword last year. We were taught a lot of lessons by Balkany. I thought they were better than Helsinki. I thought if we could play those games again, we'd have had a better chance against Helsinki than Balkany. But the poetic justice then of encountering them in the third qualifying round this year, they themselves a very different animal. I think they had 12 players out, 12 in, and I think working off less of a player budget, a lot more sort of homegrown talent, whereas there were a lot of kind of very, very highly valued imports whenever we played them last year. But it was getting that first 15 or 20 minutes out of the way, out at Fadel Bukri Stadium in Pristina, and realizing that Larne were able to play a different kind of game than what we're used to. And I say this with total respect to any other team in the Irish League. I'm not here to slag anybody. It's not what I do, really. But Larne in recent times have been very accustomed to certainly looking to control the tempo of a game in the Irish League, control possession, press energetically, take the game to other teams. Other teams that have done well against us have been the ones who have sat in, who have trapped us, who have played that kind of low block and done it really well. Such a change in sort of dynamic to watch Larne then have to do that against teams who are coming at you. And I thought it was interesting whenever we saw the resolve of our team, whenever we saw their commitment to keeping their shape. I said to James Cooper during one of the games, I've never enjoyed defensive organisation so much. To watch Cian Bolger, like an army general, just reorganising those ranks, keeping everybody laser focused over and over and over. And that's a real mental battle that you have to go through to get through a game like that. It's so easy to make one mistake, and one mistake will punish you. But certainly after that first leg out in Pristina, I think we all thought that we're in with a shot here. But certainly no laurels were rested on. You're certain that the job was barely half done. To bring it back to Inver Park and what happened there. I keep saying to everybody, every time you think you've seen it all with this team, and certainly that penalty shootout when they were Balkany, I thought I'd seen it all. But then obviously on we went to face Lincoln.
One final note on that away leg, it was the final contribution that game from Lee Bonus late on, almost his final moments as a Larne player. I think what he did there, and if you didn't see the game, you perhaps didn't appreciate what happened, in that Balkany tried to play it out. Lee Bonus just pressurizes him at full speed, wins the ball, moves into the channel, and then wins the free kick that leads to the goal. That was not a regular bit of play. That was Lee fighting till late in the game to try and get that ball, and it's out. It's through that endeavour which then got the goal. Like, what a final moment. In many ways, a send-off for his Larne career. That picture of him absolutely wrecked in a trainer's room somewhere. Yeah, I like
iconic. Yeah, the blood hanging out of his knees.
That's one of the moments I'm sure that fans will look at as a amazing moment from an iconic player, I imagine already from Larne's history, even in the short modern version of Larne. But the contribution that had to where it eventually got you, I'm sure, is not taken for granted.
Lee owed us nothing. At that stage, Lee had done everything and more that we could have imagined whenever we had done our due diligence, done our work on the talent that Lee Bonus was, and also the character that he is, to bring him in from Portadown and put him into a full-time environment and to see how he could flourish, and the job that Tiernan Seamus, all of the coaches, and also Jerry Flynn in terms of the kind of recruitment, the job that they do there, the vision that they have there for not only how players are, but what they could also be. Lee put the work in, and Lee grew, and he earned his move. And certainly to make his bow in that fashion, I have never seen anyone empty the tank in such a committed way whenever they know that they're out the door. I mean, I'm sure if his new employers were watching, they were probably watching from behind their sofa. That is a man who absolutely emptied it. And what we could ask absolutely no more from Lee Bonus, and what a way to go out. Certainly that was probably the dominant conversation leading into the home leg as well, because if you look, it felt like anytime you looked at Lee out in Pristina during that game, that he had 5 Balkany players surrounding him, and he drew them away from the play so much. They were that concerned by him. So to obviously lose him within the space of a week and have to go out and do it again, albeit on familiar territory and on our own patch, but that was the big question, which thankfully we answered.
Gets a bit feisty near the end of that game against Balkany. Hey, that shows that they probably expected to get through. They wanted to return to the Europa Conference League, and they'd missed out in crushing circumstances in their view. And you do it without Lee Bonus, and then you get the draw against Lincoln Red Imps, Gibraltar's side. The favourites tag is then slapped on Larne only slightly by bookies, and there's that unease again from Larne fans and from Irish League fans where we've never really gotten over the hump. I don't think we like being favourites, although we should beat a Gibraltar side when it comes to just general football theory. Lincoln Red Imps have got to this place before. Will they have the mentality? Will they have the better players? And again, bit of fortune. Second leg is at home. And they go to Faro, where the game is played. And it's a cracking first goal from Matty Lusty, who has very much denounced his arrival as a Larne first team player in this run. And it doesn't end great. Defensive mix-ups and all the rest. You are going into Inver Park 2-1 down with it all to do, and people thinking, do they have the what it takes to really finish the job?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that first leg. First of all, Matty Lusty. I mean, last year, the story of the summer was Dylan Sloan's arrival into the sort of senior team setup, having returned from a loan spell and a product of our academy system. And this year, to see Matty flourish the way he is flourishing and develop the way he's developing, both as a player and physically as well, I think you can see that the sort of even just the makeup of him has changed over the last couple of years. We take great pride in that. And I'm certainly not speaking as a coach, manager, whatever, but even from the outside, the pride that we take in being able to develop those homegrown players and to see them come good and to put them on those big stages and have them answer questions. Dylan did it last year and was a mainstay in the first team throughout the season. Matty then obviously has come in and he's getting his minutes already, but for him to announce his arrival into the senior setup with 2 goals and such a crucial one, even out there at Lincoln. Look, we were made to pay for probably lapses. I think that the stadium and the pitch were difficult for us. I think the size of the pitch was difficult for us. I think we seemed to struggle to connect the midfield to the men up top, and we couldn't afford ourselves to play any higher than we were playing. And I think that's why we found our strikers out on an island. And obviously a couple of pieces of quality from Lincoln, made the difference. I had been kind of optimistic that a lot of the problems that we had out in Faro we could right just by being on our own pitch, being in a little bit more of a confined space, being in front of 2,500 fans of our own fans, whenever you had been in this cavernous 30,000 seater stadium that was, empty. It was a very, very surreal 90 minutes of football for what was riding on it. So bringing it back to kind of creature comforts and a pitch that we know so well and that we've done so well on, could have made the difference. However, we were made to pay early at home by Lincoln, and we thought we had a hill to climb from the first whistle, but the hill became a mountain very quickly.
It was tetchy to begin with. I don't think either team was sure how the game was going to unfold. It was quite even from the early stretches. I just didn't know really what the levels were going to be like between the two sides. I thought Larne looked better without getting into their flow. When that first goal went into the Lincoln Red Imps, ball goes out to the side, beautifully ball whipped in, bit of lax defending, and they're able to slot it in. I'm going to say it, I did turn around to Around the Ground boys who I was with, and I said, you know what, that might be the fat lady here, because it felt very similar to the RFS game in that you push to get a goal in the first half, and it's just too much to go. Can they push on? Because what Red Imps could have done is just sat back. But you know what? That almost is what Larne needed to check it out, because Red Imps almost kind of folded in on themselves, and Larne pushed up, looked to have a bit of confidence. They knew they had to go for it. They had to get a goal, and let's get it quick rather than waiting around. I was at the other end, and I thought that was a penalty.
Yeah.
You know, we know what Larne like to do. They like to get these balls out wide to these wing-backs who are very, very high. And I just thought, keep whipping them in. See who's in there. Yes, there isn't like an 8-foot tall target man here, but if it drops, if it pings around, we all saw that Matty Lusty goal, except it was obviously from a set piece. Mm-hmm. And I thought, keep it going. And you know, if you do that, you get that bit of fortune with the handball. Inver Park became Inver Park, and
very good.
That must have been the first bit of relief. I stole that from my brother. And it's the relief. But of course, it's early on. Matty Ryan has to score the penalty. And there must be something in the back of your mind thinking, yeah, he's going to miss this, and it'll be moments of what ifs. He still has to do it at the end of the day, and he slotted it home with gusto.
Yeah. Andy Ryan has such a prolific penalty record in his time at Larne, and probably I haven't seen his, to be honest, I don't know from Hamilton, etc. But he certainly is our go-to whenever it comes to penalties. And on the stream during the Balcani, it was the shootout actually. I was on commentary, and Andy Ryan stood up to take his penalty, slotted it home as he does. And I said something to the effect of, Andy Ryan scores, of course he does. Andy Ryan doesn't miss penalties. And as soon as those words left my mouth, I had this like prang in my head, like, someday you're going to pay for that, you know. You're that mm-hmm. Someday that's not going to happen, and that's going to be your fault. And I've never forgotten it. Just one of those things that come out of my mouth. I'm trying not to scream and shout. And whenever Andy Ryan stood up to take that first penalty, that was the only thought in my head. Andy Ryan doesn't miss penalties. Here we go. But I mean, he's done it. He did it twice last Thursday, and he did it once more up at the showgrounds at the weekend, which I'm sure we'll talk about. He is the picture of composure, not only from open play, from a set piece, but from that penalty spot. I think there was a sigh of relief for the one each goal, but then I think the realization once again that we still had a hill to climb, and again, the hill, it was the most dramatic game I can remember. Honestly, I'm struggling to name you 90 minutes of football where I went through the gamut of emotions quite like it. The hill went down and it went up and it became a mountain again. But for a brief second, it was sort of the release everybody needed.
Absolutely, and the confidence was brimming out of Larne, and you kept pushing for it. You got that penalty. I've never seen a ref give a penalty so quickly. He just looked over, player goes down, points straight away. It was almost in an instant. And again, from the end I was looking at it, people were going, do you go to the same end? Do you go to do you change it up?
Yeah.
Because again, so much, like the pressure on this, so much is riding on this game. Every little moment. It's not just for you and your own pride and the fans. It's like the future of clubs, other people's employments, etc. Mm-hmm. Potential bonuses that's been talked about. You know, there's lots of stuff there. It goes different corner, and I at that point I thought they have this. And second half starts pretty much the same way without the intensity. Cian Bolger has to go off. How was that going? How was that going to impact things? Slight little shuffle around where you kind of only had. Sean Want was kind of the only recognised centre half in there.
Yeah,
and
Sean Want, who's only back from long-term injury.
Long-term injury.
Season, so.
You can see where, this is going to be the slip or something like this. And I thought actually on one of the players that was brought in between the Balcani fixture and this, I thought McAnuff looked like he had lots of confidence, almost too much confidence at times. We were thinking, just pass it to that guy. He really wanted to take by the scruff of the neck and do it himself. They kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And in typical, I would say, and I think a lot of Irish League fans thought this, of course, when everything's going well, it's a kind of needless second yellow to send off a centre midfielder in Cricky Gallagher. It was always going to be somehow shooting yourself in the foot. And the silence in the end, I was in pretty much around Inver Park when that second yellow was shown in the red card, because we could all see the red card beside it in his hand.
Oh, come out.
And I think everybody was like, please no. There was like
it rarely goes that way.
I know. I think maybe they're going to give the other guy. There was like a sense of denial
Yeah.
throughout that ground. Because even I felt neutrals, let's just say, who come to see and not quite sure, do we really want Larne to do well? At that point, they were hook, line, and sinker. They were into this Larne thing. And that red card, killer blow. I thought the momentum swung back in towards Red Imps for like 10-15 minutes. Did they do much with it? No. But when you are, from a Larne point of view, every pass, every bit of space players were getting, and that's what they were really exploiting. That extra man gave them space on either side, because they would overrun one side and that gave them space on the other side, and they tried to go for it without any real clear-cut chances. And I thought, because I had this conversation with the around the ground boys beside me, and I said, you know what, I don't think this is the game for Benji McGee. I don't think it's his style. He's only in. It's not for him. And then we saw the change. Lusty. On comes Benji McGee. And I thought, I don't know if this is really the game for him. And yes, Andy Ryan is going to get the credit. And he does get the credit for scoring the goal. He's going to get the credit for scoring the hat-trick. And Benji McGee, what a welcomed Inver Park moment, that run and pass. But Andy Ryan able to kind of hold off that Lincoln Red Imps player to play in Benji McGee, I think will be forgotten about, because that was excellent strength, excellent bit of play to send him on his way and then turn around and sprint twice as fast to get there. Shows the all-round quality that he had to do that. It was exceptional.
Yeah, I think it was a Joe Thompson tackle as well that sort of began that phase of play. And for my money, Joe Thompson is near enough one of anyway the most important players that we've had at Larne. Joe Thompson is a single-handed game changer. He goes about his business in a very understated way. He revels in the bread and butter side of the game. He works harder than anybody I could name you. And I think he's been utterly key in some big moments. It may not be the thing you notice on the highlight reel after the game, but I have to give Joe credit for kind of his part in that. But yeah, Benji's run down the right-hand side was utterly iconic. I can still see it when I close my eyes. If I can step back really quickly, I'm doing a timeline jump here, I'm sorry, but the dual blow of losing Kane Bolger to injury, and then obviously Cricky Gallagher's red card. I think I remember texting my wife, which I probably shouldn't admit this, but I think I just texted her the words miracle territory here. After Cricky had got sent off, it's almost like you've seen this script before. You know the way it's going to go, and I hate to admit, so I don't sort of, it's not like I don't believe in my team or whatever else, but it just seemed like the world was the universe was conspiring against this. But I think we were better after the red card, which is crazy. I think you said it there. It certainly sharpened our focus. I think there was a bit more of that dogged defensive organisation that got us past Balkany, and it had maybe not been just as kind of high. I don't know how to say it, but it maybe hadn't been as prominent or as intense as it was during those two Balkany games, and I think it really razored our focus. McInneff's introduction, McGee's introduction, but yeah, I mean, the man who will very deservedly take the headlines and be talked about is Andy Ryan. He pulled us through that game kind of by the bootstraps by himself, but he's one cog in a very big machine there. The personnel changes and the courage and the insight of the manager to know his players and to know the right time to bring them in, considering the circumstances. I mean, that's uncharted territory. You're fighting a game with 10 men with so much on the line, and to know when to pull the trigger on guys that you know and trust and have had around you, and to introduce these certainly quality players. They wouldn't be with our football club if we didn't think they were, but certainly unknown quantities in such a high pressure situation. There's no trotting out at Inver Park in the summer to play a friendly against league opposition or championship opposition for these guys. You're thrown right into the deep end in the most important game in the club's history. But everybody to a man, I think, rose to the occasion.
Like, I don't know, because it's such a good view of it. I think, is Benji going to shoot here? Is he going to take it on? Is he going to pass? Is he going to do the cross? And he does the cross. It's an excellent cross into Andy Ryan, who controls it really well. And exactly what we want him to do in that situation. He thumped it. And it didn't feel like it went in through the goalkeeper's legs and knocked in at the time. It did. People will say a bit of fortune, but he slammed it home. eruption at that end of the ground, and it felt as though, as much as the job was not done, this is the moment. This is how it happens. And I've received a lot of flack for trying to rank and position and try and suggest where some Irish League players sit in the hierarchy of modern Irish League football. And there's clearly a lot of hype, a lot of kudos around what Andy Ryan has done in the Irish League. And he won't, but he could retire as a player right now, and he is still probably in statue territory for Larne, because a hat-trick in a game like that is almost unheard of. To do it in the way that he did, the goals he scored to get you there, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure that there's anything new I can say about Andy Ryan's contribution, kind of what he's done on the pitch for Larne over the past couple of years. For my money, he's the best striker in the Irish League, and I think he's the best striker the Irish League has seen in quite a long time. I think Kenny Bruce said, I hope it was Kenny anyway, that Andy Ryan is too good for this league. I think he could be playing a level above. I think he said it. I think it was Kenny maybe said that in the media. If I'm misquoting him, I'm definitely going to hear about it. But I remember seeing sort of he could be playing probably a level or two up if he wanted to. You still see anytime Andy Ryan does something for Larne, anytime there's a big moment, Hamilton Accies fans pour into our comment section to bemoan and to decry that he ever left. And even just that from a former club that he's been away from for a couple of years now, I think speaks volumes about the quality of him. Look, those are iconic moments. Those will live very, very long in the memory. I struggle to name you an individual moment that will mean as much as that kind of final goal from Andy Ryan. His finish was vicious, but I think the real thing of beauty for me was his first touch and the way he knocked it inside past that centre half before he keyed it up for the shot. John Mark Maguire, one of our phenomenal media staff, put together a video where it's real time and just cut to a slow-mo just as the ball arrives at his foot. And to just see the way he weighs that ball in such a high-pressure situation right at the death of a game, or 7 minutes to go, just a thing of beauty. But I have watched that entire phase of play probably close to 100 times already, and I know I'm not alone. But look, I don't want to contradict myself. Andy Ryan did what he did. Iconic, immortal moment for Larne Football Club, but it certainly is a team effort, and the way that team dug in after going down to 10 men and sort of organised themselves and sharpened themselves. The groundwork that was done at the back before Benji got released down that right hand side, that doesn't happen unless everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. And I've never been as proud watching a Larne team than what we did in the second half of that game.
It's a sport which is a collection of numerous amount of individual moments, but when that opportunity is created by you, it's about the execution. My goodness, did he execute there and then. We now return to where we started this conversation, the final whistle at Inver Park.
Yeah,
it's over, it's happening. There is glass ceiling around everybody, metaphorically. Did it hit you then what had and has been achieved? Has it even hit you yet?
Honestly, I don't think so. If I'm being genuinely honest, I don't think so. It probably won't be until October, whenever kind of things get underway, that I sort of begin to absorb what has been achieved. It's probably part of how surreal the rise of the football club has been. I make no bones about it. I understand we're extremely fortunate to have the financial backing that Kenny Bruce has provided. The success of the football club doesn't come without the investment that he's put in, but the strategy and the management, not only of the football club from the ground up, its infrastructure, its staff, the people that make the football club tick, both on an employed and a voluntary basis, and that then leads on to the type of kind of player that we bring to the club, and the unbelievably studious work that Tiernan and Seamus Lynch do, along with their coaching team, week by week. The hours put in by those men, I don't think will ever be fully appreciated by Larne fans or anybody else. It takes all of that. I just don't think we expected it to happen as fast as it did. I hope that we continue to do this for years and years to come. I really do. But it's even just the fact that it seemed like a pipe dream. Even whenever, after those two legs against RFS, it seemed like something that still seems so far away. To be the first team to do it is a momentous honour. But again, I think that it's crucial for the growth and development of the Irish League as a whole. I know we sit in a privileged position. I think we also put an awful lot of work into the investment that we have. I don't think that dumping a big pile of money into a football club makes you successful. But I hope, and I mean this, I hope over the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, whenever my son's watching football without me, I hope that the Irish League is in a better place because teams have begun to compete at that level and the money has trickled through. The eyeballs on the league have grown. The investment opportunities have grown. A healthy Irish League is good for all of us. There are going to be growing pains. There are going to be times when a team has the resources and other teams don't. And I know that that's the case these days. It still doesn't mean that you're given a gift that you're going to win 390 minutes every single weekend. But I just hope that it sets off a chain of events over the next kind of decade or more that sees our league as a whole grow and everyone benefit.
History is never written at the time. And I think as the years go by and this success of Larne begins to percolate, it is surprising actually when you look back and think when this project started, where Larne was at the start of this project, how we got here. The investment is being well reported. A lot has been talked about it. But in a week actually where a documentary is released showcasing another club and how the beginning of that project, that investment, and let's not start, counting up coins and checking how even it is, but yeah. It doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't always go well, and something I've always talked about on this podcast, and it's echoed, I think, throughout many facets of the local media, is that yes, there's been money, but it's how well it's been invested in the sense that it feels healthy. There's a club here that has elements of sustainability. It isn't there yet in regards to a self-fulfilling club, but it's spend, accumulate and all that type of stuff. So, there's things that Kenny's done that you can see on the pitch. There's things you can see quite literally around the pitch, and it's set up so that it can grow and it can be self-fulfilling eventually. A part of that self-fulfilling business plan is clearly getting this drop-down money. The money that's being quoted of the was it 2.5, 3 million euros, pounds, whatever. Mm-hmm. I know you'll not speak to this, but it can't. It's not all going to be invested because it can't be, because there's probably a few bills that need paid off.
Yeah, we keep getting yellow cards in Europe. That's cost quite a few pounds.
So that's all there. But what I come back to that history thing of just, will this week or will this moment be seen as the ending of one chapter, or is it going to be the start of a next and a different era? I think coming from the Championship, creating this culture around the club would almost be success in itself. To then challenge at the top of the league is another level of success. To win, to look to do it consistently, to be able to play the game of football at this level of that, no matter what, until you're at the very top, you're you're along the food chain, and if you can buy low, sell high, that's what you're working on. But you're getting success in the pitch. This is the ultimate success in the pitch that has never been achieved before. We can get into, what it means down the line, but we don't know what it will eventually mean down the line. I said that straight after the game. How this impacts the Irish League, we have no idea. But the next night, or the next day, and the thing that I found quite fun, and it pulls me back to when Northern Ireland were eventually being drawn in Euro, 16. Oh my goodness, this is actually happening, because it felt, to be honest, like seeing that draw, like such a football thing. Oh yeah, I've somehow been able to get my team into this, and as Football Manager, it's FIFA or something like that. And when you're seeing the draw coming through, I mean, look, everybody wanted the Chelsea game one way or the other. Yeah, that hasn't happened, etc. But you've got 6 games. That's great, and these are not all Chelsea's, Real Madrid's, whatever. But I mean, Larne are playing against Ghent in Northern Ireland in an actual competitive game.
It's I put my phone on do not disturb, and I sat by myself in my living room for that draw. I wanted to sit back and just kind of take it in. Credit to Gareth Clements, our chair, and Neill Park, our vice chair / secretary. They left Inver Park in the wee hours on Thursday, and were on a plane just a couple of hours later to Monaco to be in person for that draw. And it was certainly not a holiday from the reports I've got. I saw them sitting there with their suits on that next day and their eyes hanging out of their heads. And I think they had they ran a gauntlet of media and interviews, and that really was the first indication of just, I think, the widespread interest that there had been in kind of what we had done. That continued for a number of days, but I think everybody just took a moment during the draw and sat back and just to see our name and our badge and kind of us being mentioned alongside these other teams. Yes, it would have been lovely to get Chelsea. Chelsea was the one everybody was talking about. The utter surreal moment that it would have been to watch Larne FC trot out at Stamford Bridge. I was denied that. We're going to have to do it again, maybe some other time. But we're going to take. Again, I'm speaking as a fan here. I'm certainly not speaking as an authority within Larne FC. I think we're going to take each game as it comes and just enjoy the ride. I think that's what our community and our fans have been doing. The commitment from some of those people to book flights and to make travel to some fairly far-flung locations to be there to see it. I just hope everybody gets their opportunity, whether it's at home or away, to soak up what this is and what this is going to be. I think probably the Shamrock game is the one everybody's going to talk about. I think it's going to be the one where there's the most widespread interest. It's a real opportunity to sort of take the temperature of football on the island and see where the Irish League is with the League of Ireland and kind of see where both sides are at. I will not sleep for days leading up to that, but I'm already really excited about it.
It was the just eyes go wide moment when that came out. You know, it's proper what. You know, because it obviously was potentially on the cards. Could have been Chelsea, could have been TNS, whatever. But like that, this will be the game that will be the core memory of this run. Shamrock Rovers come up to Belfast. It's the champions of the Republic of Ireland against the champions of Northern Ireland. Competitive game, and it's just exciting. It's just fun. I'm sure all those other teams that are in whatever they were in pot 4, pot C, whatever D, that would be great. But like Shamrock Rovers, that's like, again, that's the brilliant thing about qualifying to this competition. I know Shamrock Rovers have been in this kind of area, this part of European competitions before, but it's just exciting to be there and you can play these games. It's going to get a lot of attention. I think it's going to be really positive attention as well. And you know what? I think it's a winnable game. That's what's the, you know.
You're going to say it.
that you know, it's that's what's fun about it. I'm not saying Shamrock Rovers can't do it, and they're not probably a better team from 1 to 11. But I mean, with that, like, I don't know. Like, look, I don't think anything could be expected from Ghent. Serious team, serious league, Belgian, league. In fact, that would have been a cracking away day, I must say. You've got St. Gallen coming over, Swiss side. I'm sure they'll be very technical and strong. Shamrock Rovers at Windsor Park is going to be magic and will draw a lot of attention. And then away games, Mold, like that's going to Norway. I think that'll be very difficult, but hey, bit of crack. Yeah. But then, Ljubljana, that's not... Like, I know the goal was just to get through and have a good time, but like away from home probably makes it a bit more difficult, but it's in the cone of possibility, and we don't know where Dynamo Minsk is going to play their games because they are from Belarus and can't play games in Belarus at the minute. So they've been playing in Hungary to play against Anderlecht. They also had a wee face off with Lincoln Red Imps at one point as well. So many people think it will be 0 from 6, but I think, and you noted this near the top of the podcast, if you don't believe, if you don't strive, you won't. And I think it won't be every game, but there's a chance here that it's not just 6 for nothing. But if it was, that would be success has already been achieved.
That's it. I mean, I'm trying to say this without it being taken wrong. I think you said it there. One of the big kind of things that we had to go through, one of the big growing pains we had to go through was to shed the mentality of it's nice to be here. It's nice to be shoulder to shoulder with the big teams in Northern Ireland. You know, it's nice to be competing for silverware. Even just if I go back to that first County Antrim Shield of 4, Jeff Hughes' penalty to seal that at CV on a very cold night. It's been probably the biggest lesson that we learned in the early days, that you have to take any challenge as something that there's a potential that you could do something here. I'm not going to scud myself, and I'm not going to draw the ire of the Irish League fan base by trying to say that I think we'll pick up some points here or whatever else. Just know that we're certainly not taking to the pitch on any given night to just enjoy the spectacle of it. If anybody has ever spent a minute in the company of the Lynch brothers or Kenny Bruce, you know that's not the mindset of Larne Football Club. It's not the mindset that's got us as far as kind of we are right now. I won't make any predictions. I really won't. I would love to see us get something out of the games that are coming up. Whenever the whistle blows, it's 11 on 11 for 90 minutes, and anything can happen. Based on what I've seen over the past kind of month or two in Europe for us this year, I now fully believe in football that anything can happen. So I'm just excited, Peter. Listen, I think that the fans will enjoy the spectacle of it. The football club will be preparing the same way they do for any game.
Sure, they'll just be slightly disappointed that Friday night football might be off for a couple of weeks from October onwards.
It'll be back. Best night for a game, if you ask me.
As a part of that, and you may get used to this in a good way, you know, it's like having too much chocolate. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to have something else. You started your Irish League campaign. Welcome back. Hope you enjoy it. It's
good to be here.
Big changes from Taylor Lynch against Coleraine away, unsurprisingly. And I kind of thought this would be the case anyway. Ends up being a bit of a tetchy 1-1. I doubt you're that bothered. Yes, I know you will be bothered. You want to win, all that type of stuff. But much changed team. You get out of there with a draw. Neither team particularly firing on all cylinders these days. Will come and go, but it's somewhat the end point of what's been a crazy couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was very, very strange to a couple of days after all of that, and just 2 days after watching the draw, to then be in the car heading up the motorway again to the Coleraine showgrounds, and to try and kind of shift that focus from where we've been and what we've been doing to get back to what is our kind of bread and butter and the weekly cut and thrust of the Irish League. I missed it, to be honest. Whenever the whistle had blown and I heard the familiar accents and the familiar complaining and shouting and whatever else, the familiar back and forth, it felt like I was home again. It was nice, even though I was in Coleraine. Look, the 9 changes to the squad from Thursday, which I think was to be expected. Some more signings thrown right in at the deep end. Sam Todd came in, George Marsh, Josh Seary, and were handed starts. I think Tomas Cosgrove and Rowan Ferguson were the only 2 that started on Thursday night that played on Sunday. Listen, you have to look at it as a point gained, and that's not just situationally because of where we've been this week. It's also just been how difficult a place the Coleraine showgrounds have been for us over the last number of years to get results. I'm struggling to remember the last kind of great day out we had there. I think it was during COVID, actually. Davy McDade scored twice and we won 2-0 possibly. But we always are given a game up there. It's that old football cliche. It's a difficult place to go. But it really is, and we have to take a point and move on. The competitions and the challenges are going to keep coming at us now, and for us to challenge in any way, from anything to the Shield, the League Cup, the Irish Cup, the league itself, and preparing for the Conference League, we're going to have to become comfortable with rotating the squad, and we're going to have to sort of have a resilient and deep squad that can take it on. It's that next man up mentality that I think is going to get us through the sheer number of games that are now staring us down over the next number of months.
You're going to be an absolute scud on my fantasy team, because I very much enjoyed knowing that these 2 Larne players will do me the business. That you started by being a fly in my ointment this weekend. So
I'm sorry on behalf of
lots of success. Just breeds frustration for me. So yeah, look, a lot of changes there. Paul O'Neill starting, Benji McGee starting. You know, a lot of players like Siri and Marsh. You know, they're pretty much just coming brand new. Todd, as you mentioned, and there was a lot to certainly set incomings to wrap up the transfer window there. Pre agents who might come available still could be added. You know, we don't know. We'll see how that all comes together. But yes, I agree with you with the Thursday to Sunday thing. The reality that's coming along the line, there have been people that were slightly critical of the idea of the league not like giving Larne that push. But I think we saw in the Scottish League that the teams weren't getting through and they had to play their game. So that policy has bred success for Larne. How it will filter down to the league, we'll have to see. And you know, it comes off with a draw. Larne famously didn't start last year's season particularly well. I think both teams will take the draw. And it's a funny kind of weekend because now no team has an 100% record, as what I thought was probably the game of the weekend. And I decided just to parlay my Thursday experience at Inver Park, go to Shamrock Park on Friday night to see...
You've had quite a week.
Linfield taking on Portadown. And I mean, that was a proper barn burner Irish League game. Big crowd at Shamrock Park. I think in the end they said it may have been a sellout just based on walk-ups. I know they added a bit extra Linfield fans into the Portadown, that big stand they have there at Shamrock Park, and that was a cracking game. Obviously incredibly frustrating from Linfield's point of view because, well, they're worried about this big truck coming down the line that is Larne. They felt as though Larne were going to get off to a great start as well. In the end, that draw probably softens the blow. But I tweeted about it on Friday night, and I guess I was slightly hazy from just being there in the stadium. And yes, there's been a few kind of big moments in the Irish League so far. But, I mean, to be there, Ryan Mays, to wrap his boot round that silence that came across the entire ground for just that millisecond as everybody took an intake of breath of this is the 95th minute. Because when a player like winds up the way he did, that could go anywhere. That could go into the car park across the road, or it could go exactly where it went into, exactly where it needed to go, past loads of Linfield players, past Johns in the goal. I think it's Ewan East near on the goal line that can't get enough on his head to knock it out. And pandemonium in Shamrock Park. A huge point for Portadown just from their momentum there, trying to kick off their season. And Linfield were gutted. It was a tale of two teams that game, but it was a very enjoyable experience watching that game for 90 minutes. Or 95 minutes.
It's one of those ones that I would have liked to have sat and taken in as a neutral. To borrow a baseball analogy, that finish from Ryan Mays was an absolute frozen rope. In any other weekend, you're probably talking about that as the goal of the weekend, but as I'm sure we'll talk about, there were others. Look, Matthew Fitzpatrick doing what Matthew Fitzpatrick does. I think Aaron McCary in his new job was actually fairly decent. I think he was denying Linfield chances early on. The Portadown equaliser was also a very, very well put together play. I'm not familiar with Abu Obakan yet. I feel like I'm coming late to this, but it was a very, very composed finish at the right post from a ball in from the left. Fitzpatrick again, he's just quality. He's always going to be there for you. But yeah, I guess it's the script that Irish League fans see over and over. You never write Linfield off because of who they are, because of the success that is so much a part of the fibre of their being as a football club. They thrive in kind of those situations. So to see the table turned and to see Niall Curry's side kind of do that to them in the 95th minute, it was shocking. I think it's kind of so early in the season from a promoted team to Linfield, who are certainly they have eyes on a title charge because obviously. I'd like to hope that we are in the title picture again this year, but certainly our focus has been maybe elsewhere during the summer. So it's I don't think it's any secret. I don't think I would be a football fan if I didn't say that I punched the air whenever I saw that goal go in, because the Irish League title race quite often comes down to those single moments and single points. That is a massive result.
It was a goal that probably it's one of those like flash score wonders. It's like everybody that's kind of falling in going, Blues still beating the Ports, then they check out, right? Oh my, like you're like, I'm sure even up at Ballymena fans were going, the Ports just drew with Linfield. It's just one of those late on, the Blues pull it back. I thought the Blues were in control for a majority of that first half. Joel Cooper was majestic at times throughout that game from what I saw, and they were unlucky not to be a few goals up before halftime. McCarry was really good with the shot stopping throughout that game, actually, and it's a bit of a mistake at the back to kind of give Portadown that goal in the first half. And in the second half, I thought Linfield were very, very poor. They weren't being really overrun by Portadown, but they were not able to finish them off in any kind of way. And as the game progressed on, that home support at Inver Park were really willing them on, and I can see a lot of improvements in that Portadown side from last year. A bit more physicality. I thought Stephen McCulloch adds a lot of maturity to that back line. You know, Ukek and Ubakan, I think our players are still trying to find their feet in the league, but they have that bit about them from speed and running onto a ball. And, that second Fitzpatrick goal was a massive gut punch to the Portadown fans. Like, you could see there was a bit of a feeling of just when they were hoping to go to the other end, this sucker punch comes through. Big questions on if it was offside or not. But Portadown came back, and so far it's hard to tell how their seasons went, because they have a draw against Loughgall in the middle of 1-0 away to Cliftonville, where they're pushing late on but didn't get it. They concede late on at home to Glentoran, and they weren't expected to get anything from those games against Glentoran, Linfield, and Cliftonville, but they were never out of it, in any of those games. And to pull it back, you could feel the relief across there. It's a massive point for them, and it will give Neill Curry a lot of confidence moving forward, thinking, you know what, we finally got something from these, pretty decent performances, especially late runs. Linfield, I mean, it felt like deja vu for a lot of their fans, just not being able to hold on to the lead, not just kind of being overawed slightly. It was a mistake from Johns, it must be said, to punch it in that direction. I guess it should either be a firmer hand or stay back. And Linfield fans were just, the amount of Linfield fans I was talking to after just were, their phones were off, like, do not talk to me, or I'm just going to say it. They were just angry and sad. And the Irish League will have plenty of those. I'm sure, as a Larne fan, you must have felt that a few times, not a huge amount of times that season, but I mean, I'm thinking of that Dungannon game, of how you must have felt being on the other side
away
of that.
Away to Loughgall on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, they will come.
Everybody has them.
Yeah, so for Linfield, they still kept the point. You got to add your total, and I don't think there's anything I could say. They're probably seething, and if there's any Linfield fans still listening to this podcast, they've eventually gotten over it. The other game on that Friday night, I mean, I don't know if Glenavon seemed to struggle to get a side together with the amount of injuries they've faced, but one of the most talked about transfers of the year, Ben Kennedy, steps up, scores that hat-trick. He has been frisky so far this season, but I think Friday night showed that he is going to, by himself alone, he is going to be worth probably the guts of 10 points.
Settling into life at the showgrounds quite nicely, from what it seems. Now it's even the variety in his finishes there. I think Ballymena fans saw what he has in the arsenal. His opening goal was a diving header. His second was a lovely run through the middle, and his third was a shot from distance. So he will pose a threat from anywhere on the pitch. I as much as I shouldn't say it as a Larne fan. I don't want to see Ballymena drop out of the Premiership. I don't want to see any team in free fall. A healthy rivalry with Ballymena United is so much part of the DNA of any longer tenured Larne fan, that as much as I love hammering them up and down the pitch for 90 minutes on any given day, I hope that the good people at that football club, and there are good people at that football club that work extremely hard, I hope that they kind of put together a team that are competitive, and certainly more competitive than last year. I do think the bottom six this year is going to be every bit as enthralling as the top. I think we're in for a really, really exciting season. I couldn't pick who I think is going to be kind of in the drop zone at the minute. But that's a huge win for Ballymena. They really needed it. Four losses on the bounce to finally put together that win, and for Ben Kennedy to sort of announce himself to the home fans. It's kind of the same as the Portadown game. Momentum is so big in this league. it's not only so big for the boys going out there and playing, but also just for the fans that give up their time and travel up and down the province to see their teams. Momentum can take you a very long way, and both of those sides will I'm sure hope that they can kick on from it.
Hands across the divide of what I like to coin the Slemish skirmish between Larne and Ballymena there. Yeah, I mean, that game, I struggled. I was considering putting it in as the league prediction game, but I just thought that's just hectic because it literally could have went any of three ways. Ultimately, probably going into it, Glenavon and their massive injury list that includes... Peter Campbell now is on there. We all know what happened to Jack Malone, numerous others. And, they were a small squad to begin with. And, outclassed by a better player away from home. To a certain extent, these games at the bottom six will probably go back and forth. But it's where you take the results there within the league schedule and try and parlay it into other games. And, it sets them now, even only 5 games in, 3 points each. Ballymena take over with that goal difference. I'm sure you're panicking with Larne propping up the league right now, but
we've got a long way to go.
So, again, there'll be a lot of those games. It's how important they'll be, but I agree at this stage. It's probably momentum and a team that's, I feel as though, sneaking under the radar as a team with a nice bit of momentum, spearheaded by their own little starter right now in Kieran Offord. Crusaders come from behind 2-1 against Carrick Rangers, quick fire goals in a little space of 3-4 minutes, and I worried for Crusaders that there was so much turnover in the summer, lots of changes, and they freshened up the squad in some areas, new manager, and how were they going to adapt to life back playing top flight football here under this new setup? But you must say, it's hard to say anything but great start to the season, 10 points in 4 games, and the only place you've dropped points is in the North Belfast Derby.
Yeah. It's Stephen Baxter has been Crusaders for so long, for as long as I can remember, and it's always going to be a fundamental shift in your football club whenever he kind of steps aside, and especially in managerial terms, probably the unknown force in Declan Cadell, and I mean, impressive so far. They also had a very strong start to last season. The trick in the Irish League is consistency. It's continuing to put those results together over time, and it's managing to grind out points kind of away from home and whenever a game's not going with you. But yeah, look, I mean, I think that Crusaders were absolutely quality. Unfortunate for Carrick. I'm gonna draw the fury of Larne fans again, but I find it very, very hard to hate Carrick Rangers with Stuart King and Scotty Irvine at the helm. I think they're good guys, and there's a lot of good people at Carrick Rangers now. Our Larne icon Albert Watson obviously there. Andy Mitchell has played his trade there. Ben Tilney there. It's hard to hate Carrick these days. And when Curtis Allen put them 1-0 up, I thought this is 3 points that they very much need. They won their opening game. I think they've 3 on the board, but I haven't had a win since. But I think Crusaders' quality shone through, and they were good for the 3 points. But it comes down to it, and we're going to have to display the same sort of mettle. It's that kind of consistency over a very long winter.
I don't know, Joe. I feel that perhaps your feelings towards Carrick Rangers is not the same across both sides of the East Coast collision. But Carrick, it's so early right now, and they must have felt as though they had something going with that, taking that 1-goal lead, almost getting a second one later on, but it's chalked off for offside, I believe. And look, Crusaders come back, a bit of quality, push through it. They've been here, done that, and they're usually excellent at home, and they keep on chugging. We're talking about great goals. This is just, I think I've tweeted about it like 3 or 4 times. It's time. It's the whopper. Like, I think this goal from Jordan Jenkins can probably set up camp on the podium of goal of the season, because there might be one better, but there'll definitely not be 3. Amazing. Just the way it popped up for him. And, this is a player as well who came into this season, most fans thinking a bit of a bench warmer, surprised that he did sign this new contract with the club. He's scored goals early. Declan Devine has leaned on him to actually come in from the start, especially after coming on via the bench in the first game. And we talked about Ryan Mays winding up, and that could have went anywhere. Like, he hit it so sweetly with his left foot across the keeper. Majestic.
Shades of Dennis Bergkamp. What a finish! Yeah, no, that's a Puskas candidate of a finish. Just the sort of control over his shoulder and that laser finish was stunning. I think what's more stunning, that what maybe will fly under the radar from those who didn't watch the game, is that Joe Gormley nearly matched him at the other end not long after. The long ball, high bounce volley, which skimmed just over the bar. It's crazy that for a game with just one goal, which was world class, only 2 minutes into the game, such an entertaining game of football for the scoreline. I think both sides were having a real go at each other, and there was an awful lot of quality on display at both ends. I think Dylan Connolly into Glentoran from Bohemians, brought in by Declan Devine, his ability to take the ball and run himself through defenders is going to score Glentoran a lot of goals this year. I think he was outstanding. But yeah, and also David Fisher also threw on goal with a chance to put it to bed late on. Not that it mattered. But yeah, look, that's a game that could have gone either way. One individual piece of quality, but two teams who were really up for it.
You mentioned Dylan Connolly. There's a funny moment where the ball goes in and he's just at the bottom of the frame of the shot and his hands just go in the air and he puts it to his head. It's like, did that just happen? Like, it's one of those little funny things. Like, actually, I have to mention as well because I wrote it down. I mean, I think there was an odd pass this happened last year, and I'm thinking it more as in they started good form with this. The ball boys at Portadown are incredibly expressionistic, and things just seem to happen and they're caught on camera. I remember last year, like around the ground set of video where there was that goal, was it against Bangor, that was scored, and you just saw the ball boy like run down the bottom. If you watch back the Nal McGinn last minute goal, there's like a ball boy behind the goal and he mirrors Aaron McCarry but is falling with his head in his hands, and in turn, if you watch the Ryan Mays goal, it's scored, and then you just see two ball boys tackling each other onto the pitch. So that's going to be my new thing to look out for, is ball boys at Portadown either matching the energy, good, bad, or whatever. But yeah, Dylan Connolly did that. He was surprised that actually just happened. And he's been highlighted as one of the real bright sparks for Glentoran to start the season off. But what people need to remember is that he comes from Bohemians in a similar way to Andy Ryan came into Larne. This was not a cast-off. This was are we losing him? He's he's got big boots to fill there. That Darragh Connor moved on. They still have never filled in the McMenamin-shaped hole in that squad. McGinn now got a last minute deal to return to Scotland, so particularly from wide areas they'll lean on him. And in the end it's only the one goal which is the difference between the two sides, but in the same way that Crusaders have started the season pretty well, despite not perhaps going through the gears at any point, Glentoran looks solid enough, especially at the back, and if they can just shake off a few cobwebs from a goal scoring point of view, I think they could really start to stretch their legs and show their muscles, which I think they have underneath. There's a few unknowns in this squad, and I think they look to me that they're going to be a lot better, perhaps a bit more sensible, maybe not as exciting, a bit more boring if I can use that word, but I think they're going to chug through the season pretty well.
Yeah, I think if you talked to any Glentoran fan after the kind of a very, very turgid loss on the opening day to Crusaders, if they could be sitting where they are now with 3 wins and a draw, I think they'd take your arm off for it. Look, honestly, I gave up long ago trying to predict this league. From from the outside, or if you were looking at it objectively, the rebuild that Glentoran have undertaken over the summer and just the sheer number of personnel changes from a model that clearly wasn't working for them, you wouldn't imagine that they would hit the ground running like they had. And I think whenever that first game they lost to Crusaders, I think an awful lot of people were throwing their head back and laughing, oh, here we go again, it's come early this year, etc., etc. You're a fool to ever count out any of these sides, to be honest. The Declan Devine didn't have the greatest record down south with the Bows. I think maybe there were a few eyebrows raised whenever he was given the job on a permanent basis, but based on what we've seen so far since that kind of opening day, you always have to take opening day with a pinch of salt as well. I think it's teams shaking off the rust and getting back into the kind of the flow of kind of competitive Irish League football again. They certainly have answered every question posed to them. 3 wins and a draw and sitting pretty.
And just a quick moment on Cliftonville. It's hard to talk about Cliftonville without mentioning the missing 3 up front, and I think they've also had to add a few extra bodies throughout that squad. Neill Glynn being one of the big names that came in through the door just before the window closed. There's a few others coming in from England. How they'll settle, it'll take a few weeks. They're clearly missing Rory Hale in the centre of the park there, and even what he contributes higher up there. And they're perhaps a bit clunky as a squad right now, trying to bed in, see how it all shakes out. And I think games like they had against Glentoran probably aren't going to be... Yes, they probably rode their luck in the sense that there were some good saves from Otomasu to keep them in the game, but there will be a lot of a focus on their woes at the top of the pitch right now, and I think that's something that unfortunately is just going to take time rather than be a case that there is alarm bells ringing. There is a lot of ingredients in the mix here, and we just don't know which one is going to be the one that comes to the fore. But that can be frustrating based on what an excellent couple of seasons Cliftonville have had.
Yeah. Listen, losing Roland Hill across the water is always going to be a massive blow to any football club. I know very well Roland Hill is a name that will be talked about for a lot of years to come, even in Larne, and what he did to set us off in our first European Odyssey. And I might as well address the big elephant sitting behind me, obviously, to see Rory Hill's injury. Nobody at Larne Football Club wants to see that. Nobody takes any pleasure in seeing that. Don't want to see one of the league's best players out of action for any length of time. And if that's how I feel, I can only imagine how Cliftonville fans feel to lose kind of both Hill brothers for the time being. But Cliftonville always find a way. Jim Magilton has certainly answered the doubt that was thrown at him whenever he came in his first season, and look what they did last year. I think a bit of patience is required for them to probably get their squad back to full strength and to get going again. But I have absolutely no doubt that Cliftonville are going to be a pain in our necks all season long.
Well, how much of a pain in the neck will Dungannon Swifts eventually be for not only bottom 6 sides, but potentially top 6 sides? I mean, this weekend they had a bit of a litmus test for them in regards to a team that was quite spiky, got a decent result against Carrick to start their season off. They falter against Linfield, but Dungannon go to Loughall's Patch, and they rightfully go back to Dungannon with 3 points in their back pocket. I think Roddy Macquarie is probably going to be the name that is getting brought up most times when it comes to Dungannon Swifts, just because of the squad he's built and what he's done to really help them, to transform them really into this great footballing side that's now starting to see a couple of flowers bloom in regards to the goal scoring point of view. But I think they look strong in the centre midfield. They have players like McGovern and others that can come on and add that bit of pace. Usually Loughall are quite studious. They are well positioned, but a few defensive mistakes I think led to those goals. And again, I can imagine these teams trading results throughout the season, but 2 wins in a row for Dungannon, you don't want to be facing them next, no matter where you are in the league.
The other elephant over the other shoulder, obviously, it's going to be a big ask for Loughall to carry on kind of without Benji, who is now wearing red and white. I mean, it's going to be a big loss to your team. Rodney McGree has a way of making players play for him. There is certainly a McGree effect. You saw it at Glentoran, and I think that all Dungannon need, it's what we talked about earlier, is just a little bit of consistency, the ability to put those kind of those results together week after week. I feel like all of this keeps coming back to us. Obviously, they now are without Matty Lusty, who did a phenomenal job for them last year. John McGovern for that second goal was absolutely quality. I think he completely undid that Loughgall defence. And credit to Gail Bigger-Romana for that header to open the scoring. Was it just after half an hour? A header from outside the 18-yard box. Took it extremely well. Two sides that I think I'm going to have an awful lot of interest in following this season. Similar stories, big names who did a lot for them last season now gone, and the ability to take points off each other. Also, both sides with the ability to take big scalps on any given weekend as well.
Yeah, and to bring up Benji, as I seemingly do every week in this podcast, I do think that people for the next couple of months will go, they've lost Benji McGee, but as someone that's watched a lot of Loughgall, their season wasn't totally knitted to how well Benji McGee was playing. He faltered at particularly the second half of the season after starting so bright, and Loughgall still got the points, were strong at the back, were creative, and he only played for maybe 15 minutes of that first game against Carrick. And yes, he scored a great goal, but that could have been won without him. So I know that Dean Smith will say, look, yeah, Benji McGee was a great player, but he was only one of the building blocks that makes this team, and you're not taking out the heart, you're not taking out the keystone. A majority of that building is there, like the body of the cake is there. You may have lost the cherry, but I don't think, a lot of questions of Loughgall. Will they be able to do what they did last year? Will they be dragged down towards the bottom end of the table? I think perhaps consistency may creep up, and they had dodgy patches with consistency last year, but overall they were kind of good to watch week to week, and I guess consistency is probably the difference most times between the teams that are towards the top of the league and ones that kind of falter, particularly in that bottom half.
Yeah, Loughgall were one of the stories of last season for me. I think for everybody, just they bloodied a few noses and then they kept doing it. The very quickly shed the plucky underdogs sort of tag and became a team that more established Premiership teams sat up and took notice of. We certainly paid the price away to Loughgall, and I said it jokingly earlier, but a Tuesday night away to Loughgall last year and handed us one of our very few defeats last year. They have the resolve of a squad who are very tight knit and play very well for their manager, and quite similar to Dungannon and that Rodney McGree effect. Smith was given kind of his very due accolades at the end of season dinner last year, and I think he was very good for them.
We begin our look ahead to what is for some teams the 6th game so far, which is
really.
I know. We're in many ways we're speeding through this. I still feel like we're in like game week 2. But with that, unfortunately, I guess is that we have some games that aren't happening due to international call-ups. So we'll talk about the ones that we can happening that we can and are happening this weekend. We have 4 games on offer, all on Saturday. Linfield Crusaders ain't happening, as well as Cliftonville against Coleraine. So big games on the way, but the big games that are happening will be cute, and we'll start off with the Slemish skirmish. Larne host Ballymena Saturday 3:00. Hopefully you'll have your alarm clock set for that. I know you're not used to on a Saturday, but at home, daylight at Inver Park. Get that sand out of your eyes and take on Ben Kennedy and the boys. Clearly, Coleraine is a forgivable slip-up, let's just say, but come Saturday, it's back to Porge, my friends, and Porge means 3 points. especially at home.
Just to make things even more interesting, we are at Inver Park tomorrow night, Tuesday night, against Queens in the first round of the County Antrim Shield, just to sauce another challenge into the week there. So yeah, it's going to be a case of we are very, very quickly going to have to become accustomed to these games coming thick and fast in different competitions, and being able to turn to anyone in our squad to do a job. And that's very much going to be the case. Hopefully, obviously we called upon Joe Thompson, Andy Ryan, Sean Want in the second half on Sunday at Coleraine, players who had obviously played a massive part in Europe. But hopefully we're able to take a look at our squad for the Queen's game. Not that we're treating it any differently to any other game. Tiernan Lynch doesn't do that, to be honest. But we're going to have to feel the full benefit of a deep squad full of quality players to take on a Ballymena side. It's one of those ones that, for me, that the form book and the fortunes of both clubs go out the window when we play Ballymena United. And it came true last year as well. There were a horrible goalless draw up at the showgrounds, I think, post the New Year sometime last year, which I've tried to repress in my head. But it's a fixture that I have been attending for a very, very long time, since Shay Campbell was torturing me as a child. Standing in the terrace watching him undo Larne under Tommy Kincaid. So it's anything can happen across 90 minutes, but we have to look at that. Despite everything that's on Larne FC's plate at the minute, we have to look at that as 3 vital points and the beginning of a league charge.
I'll be kind of not let you scud yourself. I think this will be 2-1, perhaps a bit more up and at 'em, but I think that Larne will be shook into getting those goals, and it could be a bit of a late turnaround, but I think a goal from Ballymena will wake up Larne to what the Irish League are all about in this current season. 2-1 is my prediction. Looking elsewhere, we also have the Macquarie Jamboree. Dungannon Swifts against Glentoran. Down at Stagmore Park, typically one of those games that is a tough game for Glentoran, but they end up winning. And that feels like a trap. So I'm going to say 2-2 here. Another kind of interesting, fun game. Maybe a dodgy decision here or there. But I think I can't see Glentoran running away with this.
Again, I feel like I'm talking about all of the bad things that happened last season, but there were a few stressful days out to Stangmore for us last year as well. And I think anybody knows that on their day, Dungannon will give you a really sort of physical battle. They know how to sit in against teams who go after them. They know how to frustrate you around their 18-yard box, and they also know how to hit you on the counter as well. I do think the Glens will probably keep it rolling, but I think that they're going to have to be made to work for it. I think 2-1 Glentoran's probably a fair shout.
Elsewhere we have Glenavon taking on Loughgall. I mean, this is, especially at Moorview Park, this is massive for Glenavon. Loughgall will also want to check off a couple of difficult weeks playing against, Linfield, getting 2-2 against the Ports. And, as much as they will say, look, until we're safe, we're not safe, we're still, fighting for survival until we are there. This could be a game that could define that early marker of if Loughgall are going to be around there, because if they win, they can feel as though they can put that space between Glenavon and pat them away. A draw sets them even on points, but also if they give Glenavon the victory here, then they are sitting down, looking up, having to claw that back. So a real tone setter for the season. There's a touch on me that says this could be 0-0, but I actually think this is a 2-0 to Loughgall, and misery pours down. These games are tough, but I just haven't seen Glenavon get into any sort of flow from a game, and I think being away from home against Glenavon, Loughgall can perhaps de-stress themselves and play the type of football they want to play.
I think Stephen McDonnell has to look at games like this as utterly vital in terms of Glenavon's fortunes this season. I think a defeat at Moorview this weekend, and I think if I'm a Glenavon fan, I'm probably having some early alarm bells ringing in terms of how the rest of the season is going to play out. And I know that's probably simplistic, and there's an awful lot of football still to play. We're still very early in the season, but Glenavon are a side that sorely need some momentum right now, and I think this game will have been circled on the calendar, certainly in recent weeks, as an opportunity to really galvanise their support at Mourneview, and hopefully the Mourneview faithful do turn out in their numbers to get behind a side that certainly needed this weekend. I don't know. It has the air of a statement win for me. I think you're scared to say it. I think 3-1 Glenavon.
Wow. That's a lot of belief, because no matter what way this game goes, the next week they both face off against different flavours of North Belfast teams. Then after that, Glenavon have to host Larne, Loughgall go to the Oval. So beyond that, then Glenavon go against Dungannon Swifts at home. Again, if there's no points there, how are they feeling? Loughgall take on Coleraine. So, and then Loughgall, to wrap up pretty much their September games, they go away to Inver Park on a Tuesday evening, and Glenavon go to Glentoran. So there's a chance here, if neither team gets points in this game, they might find it difficult to get any points the rest of September. So a lot on the line. And finally, Carrick Rangers against Portadown over at Taylor's Avenue. It is a slight tone-setting game here, because Carrick Rangers will want to push on and try and keep in touch with that top six for as long as possible. But for Portadown, we talked about earlier, decent performances in patches, have been able to stay in games. Can they put it all together? A win here for Portadown would be great for them, obviously, of where they are in the table going into Dungannon on Friday, I can see here. But for Carrick, they've already had that slip up against Loughgall. Things didn't go great at Seaview, even though they're in the lead. You don't want this to somewhat parlay into what could be a poor run going forward. With that being said, I'm going to say 1-1.
Yeah.
Favour the draws this week?
Yeah, no, like it feels sticky looking at a fixture like that. The Ports carry the momentum of obviously that last gasp equaliser against the Blues. Carrick will certainly look at this as vital points to bank. It feels like it's going to be one of those wars of attritions. It's going to be one of those real physical battles on the pitch at Taylor's. I think this is hard. I don't like this part.
I do this every week, mate. Don't. This is how it feels.
I think it's a 0-0. I think it's going to be an absolute battle, and I don't think anybody's gonna score.
That's someone from the backroom staff has been sent off kind of game over the most needless yellow card decision you've ever seen in your life. But that's what the Irish League's all about. Some might know, if they're on Twitter, that this season I've been doing a little prediction league where you can predict the result of a game. You then can predict the exact score of the game, and you can also add in a little differentiator there of picking a goal scorer. Obviously, you don't have to get all three. You can get just the goal scorer. You can get the result. Obviously, if you get the result, get the correct score. Boom. There's been a few all three, which has been good. You can go see the current table. But look, if you haven't done it yet, you can do it for this weekend, and you could start trying to build up the points, because, tell you a little secret, there's still some people on 0 points. Again, people have been doing it every week, so you're not that far behind. And if you do want to do this, the game I'm going to select is the Rodney McAree Jamboree. I'm going to stick with my prediction of 2-2, and my goal scorer is going to be David Fisher. I know a lot of people want to be hipsters about it, and not that like the non-strikers don't score goals, but I've definitely had people going, I don't want to pick the obvious one. That's fine. But you know what? David Fisher's only obvious if he scores. So go put it in. Come Friday, I'll stick up a tweet. Tweet underneath me. Remember your result, your score, and your goal score. And then come Monday, Sunday, whatever, I just have to get my spreadsheet out and then do my tabulations. Things I do for you, dear listener. But Joel, that's a podcast. That's what we do here. I'm sure if every podcast you come on, you get to talk about such delights, you'd be doing it every day.
No, it's great to finally have the chance, Peter. Thank you very much indeed.
Tell me this, if people have enjoyed the time they've spent with you talking about all things Irish League, is there any other places that they can engage with your voice, your thoughts, your creative spark? I
am a humble servant to Larne Football Club these days, and I try not to be overly loud on the internet anymore, to be honest. But if you search my name, I'm sure you'll find me about the place. Come to Inver Park. You have to listen to me all the time. There's a lot of people have to do this every single week, so count yourself lucky.
And finally, do you know if you're going to be flown off to any of these not so exotic places in Europe? Have you said, you know where I really like Scandinavia? Just dropping hints around Kenny and the boys.
Yeah, well, we shall see how it shakes out. I would certainly love to, if I'm not required on any kind of for any kind of club duties, I would certainly like to be there as a fan. But I'll do some saving for the next few weeks and see how it goes. I'll probably get talked into making it a family holiday, so I will be going to see Larne in Europe with an almost 2-year-old. So
are you like you know what, where's great in autumn, my love?
You know what toddlers love?
Slovenia in autumn. And you know what? Great deal on a random Thursday to Saturday deal. Wow.
Please don't blow this for me.
Oh, great. And I've got this great little flight going out. Why is there exclusively only Larne players on our family holiday? Oh, they obviously must have got the great deal as well. Okay, well, enjoy.
So when you put it like that, no, probably not.
Joel, this is a weird thing I do every week. It was great to finally have you on. Congratulations to Larne and everybody else. The Irish League rumbles on, and thanks for joining me. Cheers.
Thanks, Peter.
I've got to be doing these things. I know I didn't do one last week. Time was against me, so I just forgoed it. But don't worry, it was only a 1-week thing. I'm back. I'm here for the Kick and Match sickos that are here at the Absolute Dregs, the absolute bonus part of the episode. And if you're still here, you should probably follow me on social media. It's just a suggestion, you know. And the way to do that is on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's not on TikTok just yet. It is kicking and the word match, combine it together, type it in, boom, you've got me. You can see my face, you can see videos, you can see photographs, you can see witty remarks, you can see places that you can type in your prediction, which I was talking about earlier on. Fun time all round. Of course, if you are new, you haven't heard this thing where I tell you that you should listen to this on your smart speaker. Make it go wireless, handless. Just do the voice thing. Just go, hey, smart speaker, please play Kicking Match. I know it's not called smart speaker. That's just what people in the biz are supposed to say. Go, hey, smart speaker. Not called that. Please play Kicking Match, an Irish League podcast. Really important you do that whole thing. Doesn't work with Kicking Match. If yours do, let me know. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. I'll see you next week, where Larne will probably not dominate. Maybe they will. Maybe there'll be some Larne story and I'll take over most of the podcast, but I suspect not. Life is good. Irish League football's fun. Bye.